How's it going, everybody? Brian Fazio here. This is for fourth grade life science. We're talking about the digestive system, not just the whole part of digestive system. We're going to be looking at the very initial first part of the digestive system. Melody's going to be helping me out with this. She's going to be my student and also helping me out with discovering how cool our mouth is, as our mouth is the first part of the digestive system. Just as a initial question here, what do you think happens in the first part of the digestive system when the food enters your mouth?
You have to chew it up so you can swallow it.
Chew it up so we can swallow it. I like that answer, and I think that's a common answer that we would think. But did you know that there's also another big part of the mouth, something that's inside the mouth, that helps us break down the foods and make it easier to swallow? Because do you think that if we were to put this whole cracker in our mouth and we just chewed it like once or twice, broke it up with our teeth, then we'd swallow it, do you think it would go down easy?
No.
No, I don't think it would either. Actually, I think that's how we choke. Actually, what we have is inside the mouth. I don't know if you know this, but inside the mouth, there are these little ducts that you can't see. They're actually, lift up your tongue. There's these little ducts, and these ducts shoot out. Do you know
Spit.
what? Spit. There's another word for it. It is spit. That's how we see it. We call it spit. But there's another word for it. It's a bigger word. Saliva. Can you say that with me? Saliva. Now, what this saliva does is it covers over all the food that you're chewing up, and it turns it into this mush. Now, this mush, right? That is actually the food that is actually put into our body. So this is merely just the shape and the form of the food, but this is not what it actually hits your stomach. It's actually a mushier, nasty mass that actually goes into your stomach. So what we have here is we have 4 different types of food. Okay, we have cheese. We have a salty cracker. We have a Swiss roll. And finally, we have one of Melody's favorites, wasabi chickpeas. That's spiciness. So, we are going to be prepared for this. So if I was in a class, I would make sure that each one of my students had their science notebooks out. Melody has hers. As all scientists do, we record our findings. We are going to be comparing each food based on how long does it take to chew. Is it hard to chew? Is it easy to chew? How much saliva can you feel filling up your mouth? Right? Does it take a lot of saliva? What food group do you think, would produce a lot of saliva? These are just some of the questions that we are going to ask. So, before we even taste anything, Melody, your hypothesis, which we know that our hypothesis, that means what our testable question is. It is what we already think we know is going to happen with these, and thus we have to test it to see if it lines up with our original idea. So, Melody, what is your hypothesis on what the cheese is going to be like?
I think it's gonna be harder to chew
Harder to chew? Why is that?
because it's more dense.
Dense? It's a big word for a fourth grader. Yeah, dense, okay. Looks kind of rubbery too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. What about the salty cracker here?
I think you're gonna need more saliva because it's dry.
Because it's dry. Good observation. Because it's dry, right? Crackers are really dry. How's about our sweet roll here, or Swiss roll here?
I think it's gonna be like the cheese. It's gonna be harder to chew because there's a lot in there.
There's a lot in there, yeah, because if we look at the Swiss roll, it looks like there's layers. This one's all smashed up, but yeah, it looks like it's real soft too, right? What about the wasabi chickpeas? What do you think that's going to be like?
I don't know. I think it's gonna be more like the crackers because it's crunchy.
Because it's crunchy? Okay. All right. Well, go ahead and in your science notebook, go ahead and write down what your original thoughts for each one of these food groups. Remember that a good scientist is organized. So make sure that you label them properly and list out a few of your general observations just without even putting them in your mouth. So make sure you do that. While she's doing that, and while you guys listening are doing that, let me go ahead and tell you that, the digestive system, though we can't see it happening once the food has hit our stomachs, and it's going to be really exciting to look at that in the following week when we get to that section of the text and we start reading about how the stomach acids are able to pull out these nutrients from just this little piece of food, all the nutrients that can get spread, that is broken down and then spread throughout our body and gives us energy, gives us strength. Certain foods affect us in different ways. We'll get to that later. But what I find so cool about the digestive system is as soon as you pop that food into your mouth, you are able to right then and there feel the digestive system already starting to work. This is the first part of it, and this is how God has made us. God has made us unique beings. A lot of scientists see us as like a creation, like a I'm trying to think of the word, like a robot, like we are like a machine, right? Because the digestive system goes throughout a cycle just like our cardiovascular system. If you guys remember when we talked about that, our blood system, right? How it pumps out the blood throughout our bodies. This food and drink that we have, it keeps us alive, and God made us that way. And even in the New Testament, we hear that Jesus says that there's going to be a feast. There's food and drink mentioned all throughout the Bible. We see this when Jesus turned water into wine. The upper room discord we hear about when he breaks bread with his disciples. So food is very important to us as human beings. It's really cool to see it in a scientific way. So, Melody, are you prepared? Have you written down everything you needed?
Yes.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and start off with the cheese. Okay, now remember, tell me the two things we're wondering. Is it, what's it like chewing? Like, what are your teeth doing? And saliva. Those are our main tools for digestion, starting right now.
There wasn't a lot of saliva, so I had to chew a lot for it to become the mush.
Oh, so the cheese didn't cause a whole lot of saliva. That's interesting. So your teeth pretty much did all the work for it.
Yes.
All right. Was it easy to swallow?
It was a little hard.
You had to chew it a bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Once you've written that down, move on to the cracker. Also, I didn't mention this before, but the students in a classroom, they would work in pairs, just as Melody and I are working. And we would, one person would be writing down as the other person tasted, and they would be asking these questions that I have provided for them. All right, so for the cracker, what do you think?
It was dry, like I thought it would be. But there was a lot of saliva, so I didn't have to chew as much.
Okay, so for the cracker, the saliva did all the work. Is there anything else that you can gather the difference in taste from the cheese and the cracker?
This one had a little bit of a rubbery taste, but it was just a little bit sweet. And then the cracker was really salty.
Okay, so what do you think caused the saliva for the cracker?
Because it was dry.
Right, so you think the dryness produced more saliva?
And maybe because it was salty.
Salty, okay, so maybe the saltiness also reacted in some way and caused more saliva to fill your mouth. Okay, to break it down, got to get that into. Which one, just personal question here, which one do you think tasted better?
The cheese.
The cheese, why is that?
I just like it better than the cracker.
You like cheese
Not
better
a
than
huge
cracker?
salty person.
Hey, to each their own. Okay, this is the fun part because now we've reached the sweet. So go ahead and take a piece of the Swiss roll. Okay. What do you think about the Swiss roll?
There wasn't a lot of saliva, so it was harder to choose more than the cheese.
Okay. So that's been the hardest to choose so far. Okay. Not a lot of saliva. Let me ask you something. So, you liked the cheese, and I'm sure the Swiss roll tasted well as well.
It was okay.
It was all right.
It was too sweet.
It's too sweet for you. But here's what I'm trying to say. What could you say so far? So these two, because you like the cheese, it tasted good. Same with the Swiss roll. You know, a lot of people like sweet foods. And you didn't have a lot of saliva in these two. But you had a lot with the cracker. Right? So what would you say, what could you gather from that information from these three about the saliva?
Maybe because if I like the food, then the saliva would water down the taste in my mouth.
It could, so it's like your brain is saying that you wanted to taste it more?
Like you want to enjoy it.
How cool is that? That's pretty cool. That's science. Science is cool. I like it. All right, cool. All right, let's go ahead and go to, because I'm really interested in that, because you love these chickpeas, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and, okay, they're ready. I heard them. What's up, Crunch? All right.
I thought there would be more saliva because it's crunchy,
Right.
but there wasn't a lot. But I think it's because we just talked about if you like food more, there's not a lot of saliva.
Right. So it seems like you really want to taste this. Right. Okay. So go ahead and finish up any of your findings, discoveries, if you would, in your notebook. Okay. So if we were to conclude this, okay, let's do them two at a time. This will just represent. Actually, let's do the ones you said. The cheese and the wasabi was your favorite, and these two were meh. For. Okay, so not talking about taste now, not what you like, just what you've seen. I want you to go ahead with all these. You have your cheese, you have your wasabi, you have your cracker, you have your Swiss roll. Go ahead and pick out for me which one produced the most saliva altogether.
The cracker.
The cracker, okay. Now, I want you to pick out which one did your teeth do all the work in?
The Swiss roll.
The Swiss roll. Okay. So we'll just talk about these two for right now. So now, with the Swiss roll and the cracker, when you swallowed it, was it hard to swallow or was it easy?
The Swiss roll was hard to swallow.
The Swiss roll was hard to swallow.
I thought the cracker would be the hardest, but it was the easiest.
It was the easiest. Why do you think that was?
This one was a little not fluffy on the inside, but it was lighter. Like it wasn't
Lighter?
as much.
Okay.
Like there's air pockets.
Okay. Write that down. Go ahead and write that down, actually. That's a good discovery. Okay.
Like the Swiss roll was more filled.
Filled. Okay, and I'm glad you used that word because that actually reminds me. What do you think out of now for all four? What do you think? Was it filling? Like, could you fill it? Which one do you think was, I don't want to use the word heavy. Which one filled you up more?
The Swiss roll.
The Swiss roll, right? Now, did you feel good after you ingested it?
No.
You didn't feel good, huh? Yeah. Which is why normally, and we'll get more into this once we get into nutrients, but this is something that's really important for you guys to understand. When our parents tell us to eat good food, like broccoli, what's some other good foods?
Celery.
Fruits. Vegetables. Well, I guess that's yeah, okay. But there's a reason why they really don't want to torture your taste buds. But this, while the Swiss roll tastes the best, bodily speaking, it's really the worst for you because the body, while it tastes good in our taste buds on our tongue, the rest of the body really doesn't agree with it. Now, let's say the cracker. Sometimes we don't like that either because of how salty it is. We like salt because of why?
Because it makes some bland food taste better.
Bland food tastes better, so you would say it adds flavor, right? See, normally during this, I think what would be a good conclusion to our findings is that even though something tastes good, the overall look of our digestive system, taste shouldn't be the biggest part of what we should be concerned about going through our bodies, right? Because if Mr. D eats a whole bunch of these Swiss rolls, when I bend down to tie my shoe in the morning, I'm gonna be real, it takes me a while to get back up. I run out of breath pretty quick if this is all I'm eating. That's why we will be going through next the basic food groups. After we start talking about the stomach and the nutrients, we're going to be going over the basic food groups and what they do for us in our digestive system. And also, I'm going to show a pretty cool video. Some might find it gross. I find it pretty interesting. I'm going to show a video. It's an x-ray of somebody actually eating, and you can literally see the food going down their esophagus, going into their stomach, and then you can actually see the stomach acid actually dissolve the food. And it's actually pretty cool. The final thing I would do as a fun activity for the fourth graders is I would take them outside, use chalk, and like draw the esophagus and like kind of like a pathway going through the intestine into the stomach. And when I would take a bite of, I would have a piece of food and I would take a bite of it. And from our findings, since we know that when Melody said this one took longer to chew, I'm saying, okay, Mr. D's eating a Swiss roll, I'd get them run into place, or they can hop up and down like they're being chewed up, and then slowly go down the esophagus. Or if it was wasabi, chickpeas, if they were my favorite, then the class would know that I would eat that, and they'd, hurry up and really go fast down into the stomach. And I think it would be a pretty fun activity, and that would kind of act as my assessment as well. So thank you guys for watching this. I had fun with this. Anything with food and drink, I'm always down for. That's why I'm as big as I am now. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you to Miss Melody for helping me out. It's always a pleasure. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. I look forward to hearing your feedback. Bye.